Hello, fellow Raptor Kingers. What are you guys up to today? Yeah, just say hi to Raptor Terror, Mr. Terror here. He's happy to see you guys again. Yeah. He's like, you guys gonna subscribe to my video? Come on, guys. You know you want to see me. He really wants to see you guys. Yeah. I want to see you guys bad. This is true horror animated stories. Please watch. You guys ready? Alrighty then. Let's roll!
When I was 17 years old, I went to my friend's birthday party. Lots of teenagers were drinking illegally. However, I was never into that kind of stuff, so I just sat with other friends and we just talked. Then, one guy I had never met before joined the party and started talking to another group of people. Soon he turned to me and introduced himself as John. He was quite tall and had remarkably blue eyes. He seemed like a pretty nice guy at first, but he gradually started to act weird. He kept following me and seemed to have a strong obsession with me. One of my friends, Callum, saw my discomfort, so he said, "Quit it, man. Don't be a creep." John looked back at Callum, and the look in his eyes made my skin crawl. "Why? She's mine." What he said was kind of creepy, so I called my dad to come and get me. Callum stayed with me while I was waiting for my dad at the front of the house. "He's watching us," Callum told me, and my body went stiff. "Here, hold my hand. If he thinks we're together, he might give up." So I held his hand, and then a loud shout of anger came from behind us. We both looked, and John was headed straight towards us.
What a creep.
I was getting really worried. He looked like he was going to hit Callum. But just then my dad arrived. So I grabbed Callum's hand and we ran to the car. As soon as we both jumped in, I explained everything to him. When we dropped him off at his house and returned home, I was leaning over my bed and about to go to sleep, and then I heard the front gate open. When I looked out the window, to my horror, John was sneaking into our yard. Dad got mad when I told him this, so he grabbed his baseball bat and went straight outside. But when he came back after a while, he was frowning. He said, "You left your jacket." When I got my jacket, a small piece of paper fell out of my pocket. Dad picked it up and opened it. "You're mine, Michelle." A few weeks passed. That experience had made me and Callum really close, so we started dating.
Good, hell yeah.
One day, while we were watching a movie at the theater, I really had to go to the toilet. I rushed to the bathroom to avoid missing too much of the film. On my way back, at the door of the theater, John was there. He looked furious and was actually crying. Then he rushed towards me and said, "How could you do this to me?" I was baffled. "I haven't done anything to you."
Shit didn't belong to you,
He
dumbass.
just stood there, stared at me, so I rushed back
Fucking creep,
into
get
the
out of
theater
here.
and told Callum what was going on. We left the theater immediately. I was pretty nervous about what happened, but I also thought everything would be alright soon. However, I was totally wrong.
Wow, what a
A
creep.
few days later, I was in my backyard working on my art project when I heard sobbing. I turned around and John was there, holding a small container of medication in his left hand. My legs began to tremble as he moved closer to me. "Why are you here?" I asked him. "I missed you, Michelle. I've been following you nearly every day. Are you with Callum just to make me jealous because it's working? But no, you are wrong." As John began smiling, my mouth went dry. "I don't even know you, so please leave."
Leave, asshole.
But when I said this, he began crying again as he pulled out a knife and pointed it at me. I screamed and began running towards my back fence. But before I reached it, he caught my shirt and pulled me to the ground. He held the knife to my cheek and then yelled, "I love you, Michelle. Nobody else can have you. You're mine."
No.
I was horrified,
Fucking
and
creep.
tears were rolling down my face. "Get off her!" All of a sudden, my dad, who was gardening outside, quickly ran towards us. He beat him up with a bat, and then
Good.
tied him up
Yeah,
with a rope
Daddy.
he got
Woo.
out of his shed. And I heard John mutter, "I thought you were alone." Once my dad made sure I was alright, he called the police and Callum. John began laughing like a maniac and yelled out in anger when he was arrested, "I kissed her. She's mine. Mine." Later, we got a phone call from the police, and it turned out that he was high on drugs, and his room was full of pictures of me, as well as a
Whoa.
diary describing plans to kidnap and murder me.
Whoa.
After that, John was sentenced to jail for 7 years. I'm 22 now, and Callum and I are still together.
Nice.
We've just moved
Good.
to the city together recently. I have deleted all social media, but I'm still in fear. We are 2 years away from the date John will be released. And I know that one day in the future, John will likely come looking for me again.
Be careful. Have shotguns, get guns, get ready.
Why are you smiling?
He comes by you, blow his
Because
face off.
I'm freaking rich, baby. I started as a poor farmer.
When I was 14 years old, we traveled to Jeddah for a few days. On our way back, it was just past midnight, and there were almost no cars around on both sides of the highway. My mom, dad, and I were chatting and laughing at each other. However, we just ran out of topics soon, and I decided to lie down in the back seat. At that moment, I heard a loud bang and passed out for a few seconds. When I got my senses back, I tried to sit up, but the car felt like a roller coaster, so I struggled a little. When I finally sat up, I grabbed the shoulders of both the driver and passenger seats. And then, looking out through my window, I realized that the car was on mid-air floating. When the car dropped, the front bumper dismantled and slid past the right windows of the car.
Ooh.
What makes the matter worse, our car did not stop for us. It just started to run at a very high speed, and my dad and I freaked out due to the situation. My mom was insisting him to stop the car as soon as possible. I could see that he was trying, but the car wouldn't stop.
Slam that bitch in reverse.
Fortunately, we stopped at the fast lane of the highway, and there was a gas station on the other side of the road. We rushed out of the car and realized that our front left tire burst, and I could see that there was still no cars anywhere. The road was totally empty. My dad was bleeding from his nose injury due to his first hit on the steering wheel when the tire burst. When my mom went back to check to see if he was all right,
Yeah,
I
he good.
suddenly started to have an eerie feeling. At that very moment, I could feel that part of the illumination from the gas station seemed to get dimmer. Lifting my head, I scrutinized in the woods behind the gas station. And then, two dark, gigantic figures were standing there and staring at us.
Whoa.
I thought I was hallucinating, but those figures were literally standing there. Although I couldn't see their faces, I could surely see the silhouettes and those piercing eyes. Also, their sizes were absolutely abnormal. I stood there in fear. I couldn't even think of calling out my mom, saying, "Look over there." Then those two figures slowly walked away to the woods and disappeared. After those things walked away into the dark, the brightness of the gas station seemed to be back to normal again.
Oh.
And then, the cars on the road started to pass on both sides of the highway.
What?
It was like a moment of nightmare. We finally called the police, and not long after, 3 police cars arrived. At first, the cops didn't seem to believe us when we reported our situation. But anyway, we were taken to the hospital and given treatment. The next day, a detective came to speak with us, saying that this part of the highway was known as a haunted road, and a lot of bizarre accidents have occurred, literally. The local government tried to investigate what was the reason, but it has never been solved until now. Since that day, my family never went on that highway.
Good.
And a few years later, that highway was shut down due to the rising number of fatalities.
Good. Oh my god.
This happened to me a couple of years ago.
That is creepy.
My family and I moved to a new house. It was quite old, and it had been sitting empty for at least 15 years before my family decided to buy it. At first, I was just happy that we had a new house, but after that, I had some weird experiences. My room was right across the bathroom, and at night, I would hear strange noises coming from it. Actually, if you listened more carefully, it sounded like it was coming from the walls. But when I finally got enough courage to walk towards it, the noises always stopped. Not much later, I got used to the sound and eventually stopped being scared of it. But that wasn't a problem compared to other things. My stuff started to go missing, like my clothes, underwear, and even one of my pillows. Sometimes I yelled at my little sister, since she often came into my room. I thought that she probably stole my stuff, but whenever I got mad at her, she said, "Why would I take your underwear? I'm not a thief." Eventually, I couldn't find my stuff. Even worse, our food also went missing, little by little. My family and I felt uneasy.
Well, that's creepy.
One night, I was laying in my bed about to go to sleep, and as I rolled over, I saw a figure in front of my door. That sent chills down my spine, so I rubbed my eyes.
What are you doing
and it
here?
was totally gone. I thought it was just my imagination, but after that, I started receiving little notes on my bedside table when I
we'll
woke
watch
up.
it.
Pretty, I see you.
Are
And
you
other
enjoying
weird
this?
things were written
Oh
on
yeah.
it. However,
Shut
I
up.
figured that my sister was trying to scare me, so I just ignored it. And that day became the most terrible memory of my entire life. One day, my dad and I were fixing up the bathroom. Because the entire house was pretty old, we were repairing the inside of the bathroom first. As we were tearing the tiles of the wall, Dad took the huge mirror off, and
Oh,
at
fuck
that
that.
instant, I screamed. There was a little room behind the mirror.
Whoa.
And there were all my
Roar.
stuff,
That's
and even
creepy.
my underwear, along with empty food
Yeah,
wrappers.
very creepy.
We couldn't believe what we just saw, and Mom immediately called the police. They arrived pretty fast, and when they inspected that tiny room, they found out that there was a man who had been living in it for at least a couple of months.
Wow.
But he was not there,
Fuck
so the
that.
police promised that they would search for him
Oh
outside.
hell no.
After that, we
How the hell did
demolished
he get
the room,
in?
and since I turned
Rawr,
18
I
years
don't
old,
know.
I moved to my college
Would you
nearby
shut up?
and got my own apartment. Sometimes
my
I go
ass.
back to my hometown to visit my parents, but never spend the night.
You're not that mean.
I know
Shut
that
up.
the man was still never caught.
I know.
And I'm always paranoid, wondering if he's still hiding somewhere in our house.
Oh geez. That gives you chills, man. To think if somebody's living in your house. Well, everyone lived here. I'd
This
eat them.
happened 6 years ago
Shut
when I
up.
was 16 years old.
Sorry guys,
One
I know
day,
he's annoying.
My parents were going to a concert in California, so one of my best friends and I had a sleepover at my house. After my parents had left, we played some video games, ate some snacks, and a few hours later, we finally went to bed when we got bored watching some more movies on Netflix. I was about to sleep, and at that moment, I heard some loud noise. It seemed that our house's window was broken by someone.
Oh hell no.
Being freaked out, I woke my friend up, and of
No.
course, he got mad.
Rawr.
Get into the bathroom, now! I said to him, and he replied, "Why?" But there was
Okay,
no
good
time
night.
to explain. I got up, pulled him by force,
Annoying as
and we
hell.
went into the bathroom. I was paying attention to outside if I could hear any footsteps. Then, someone was running towards us.
Whoa!
As soon as I locked the
Oh.
door, the intruder stood in front of the door
Ooh.
and said to
Whoa,
open up with a
chills,
deep
whoa.
and low voice.
Fucking creepy.
But we didn't say anything.
Oh hell no.
He stood there for a second, and then he abruptly started kicking down the door.
What's going
Open
on?
it. Open!
I'll eat 'em up.
kill y'all. We were so scared at that moment.
You
He
joining me
finally
too?
broke down the door.
Yeah.
While they succeeded to come in, I quickly grabbed some medical scissors at the same time. I screamed and stabbed him in the leg. He dropped the axe that was in his hand, and then I finally saw his face.
Ooh.
He was in his mid-50s, and he had long, shaggy hair with 70s-style
Stab
glasses.
him in the face.
His eyes were all bloodshot.
Whoa.
And furthermore, I could see that he was drooling like a
I'll
mad
eat
person.
him.
I will never forget the way
I'll
he
eat
looked the
'em.
rest of my life. Just then, he violently grabbed my scissors and stabbed me in the arm. When he attacked,
Whoa.
suddenly I felt a deep pain, and I
Motherfucker.
was so terrified thinking that we were going to die in here. I closed my eyes,
I'll eat
and
him
then my
for
friend
you.
started punching his face.
Yeah.
He learned martial
Go,
arts for
friend.
self-protection, and who had enough strength to beat an adult up. He attacked his face several times and took away the scissors from him. I started to help him attack that man. With one hand, I punched him in the throat, and when my friend pushed him, throwing him to the ground,
Nice.
we finally managed to get out of the bathroom.
Good job, guys.
Before the man tried to escape, we pushed the couch from the living room with all our
Nice.
might and trapped
Nice.
him in there.
Good job, guys. Good job.
He slammed the door and yelled with a mad, angry voice,
Good job.
but it was
Rawr,
impossible
good
to
job.
escape. I grabbed my phone and called 911. About 10 minutes later, 3 police arrived and they went into the bathroom. When they entered inside, they witnessed a full pool of blood, took him outside, and arrested him. Our nightmare was finally finished at that moment. One of the police officers stayed with us, and my parents had to come back home early the next day when they had got a call from the police. After
I
that,
would've
it
eaten
turned
him. They're
out he was
lucky.
a serious kidnapper who had a mental
Yeah,
issue,
they are.
and he was sentenced to jail for over 10 years.
Good.
Since then, I've never had that kind of experience ever. However, I always wondered what
All
would
right,
have
good night.
happened if my friend wasn't there with me.
Thank you, Jay.
I will always appreciate him for saving my life.
Mr. Raptor, Mr. Fear.
Wait! How did you win again?
I knew it was you. Here, look.
I was 26 years old when this incident happened. One day, I was taking a walk with my dog Molly. After walking 2 more blocks, we saw 3 men smoking on the porch and talking to each other.
Mm-mm.
2 of them
Run.
didn't pay attention to me, but one was staring in my direction. He
Run.
was a bit bigger compared to the other 2 guys. He looked like he was in his 20s and was also bald.
Well,
I
run,
quickly
bitch.
looked the other direction, but then he yelled at me from behind. Hey, gorgeous, nice puppy you got. Come over here and let me pet her. Then I heard laughter coming from the other 2 men, so I ignored them and rushed over to my house. At first, I didn't tell my parents anything, thinking that it wasn't that serious, but I was wrong.
Yep.
The day after, I walked my dog as usual, but because I was feeling a little bit scared, I took pepper spray with me. I walked past the same house hoping not to see that weird man, but he was there again. He was sitting on a rocking chair on the porch, and when he saw me, he shot up from his seat. In fear, I picked up Molly and bolted down the sidewalk, trying to get away from him.
Sorry,
But
guys.
to my horror,
Oh,
he
my
was
girlfriend.
chasing after me. He pushed me to the
She knows
ground,
I love her.
making me fall
But I
onto
tell her
the
not to
hard
text me when I'm
concrete
videoing.
floor and dropping Molly.
Mmm.
I started screaming for
Mm-mm.
help, for anybody to hear me. But he covered my mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Clawing at his hands, I realized that I had the pepper spray in my pocket. So I grabbed it and sprayed it in his eyes, and after a while, he eventually
Nice.
screamed out in pain and rolled off
Good.
my body. I quickly got up and picked up Molly. When I got home, of course, I frantically explained the situation to my parents. My dad, who was a retired Marine, wanted to go to the
Oh
house,
yeah.
but Mom just told us to go to the
Come
police
on, Mom.
station.
No.
I told an officer what happened and showed him my injury, but they didn't really help me. A couple of months later, I started working at a 7-Eleven. One day, I was walking home after my night shift. And when I turned the corner, I noticed a truck driving slowly and way too close to the sidewalk. I didn't pay any attention at first, but when I was standing in front of my front door, I looked behind me and saw the same car. 2 men were in the truck, and I could see that they were watching me.
Oh, that's creepy.
I told my parents again, and because of this, my dad was on the lookout in front of the house for a few weeks. Nothing really happened until that night. That night traumatized me, and the guilt still chokes me to this day. It was about 2 in the morning when Molly started barking at something out the window. Being too tired, I just shrugged it off and drifted back to sleep. Until I woke up to the sound of Molly yelping in pain. I opened my eyes and saw my dog's lifeless body on the floor covered in blood and a dark figure over her.
Aw.
It was him. Do you think you could get away from me? No, you were wrong. He climbed over me and started punching my face. With my blurred vision, I kept on kicking and hitting the man, but he didn't even flinch. And next, I heard him struggling to get his belt off. Pure terror swept over my body. I let out a scream before he could cover my mouth. All of a sudden, the door swung open.
Yeah, Daddy!
My dad held his gun in his hand, and my mom was behind him. As soon as Dad saw the man, he shot him twice. The man screamed in agony
Yes!
and pushed him
Good!
off of my body. Dad grabbed him and started beating him,
Yes!
showing
Woo!
no mercy, and Mom
Yeah.
called the police. I then ran to Molly, but she'd already passed away.
Mm.
About 5 minutes later, the police arrived, and they arrested him. It turns out that it was not only that man, but also his other 2 friends who conspired this. Their plan was to break into our house, kidnap me, and rape me. Fortunately, they were caught and sentenced to 16 years in prison for multiple charges. Until
Nice.
now, I still live with my parents because of the fear of being alone. And I feel sorry for Molly. I really miss her.
We know you do.
I miss her so much.
Nothing you can do. Alright guys, well, I'm gonna call that this one for now. If you guys like, links in the description will be down below. Like, subscribe please. And we'll see you guys later. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Raptor King out. Peace.